Greetings, everyone. We're taping this on the Tuesday after Easter, even though you may be watching it a day or two later. And once again, thanks so much for tuning in. What I'd like to do is begin by sharing the gospel reading for this day, this Tuesday after Easter. It comes from the 20th chapter of John's Gospel, and it's a gospel that has always given me goosebumps. I don't know whether it'll give you goosebumps, but it certainly gives me goosebumps. Mary Magdalene stayed outside the tomb weeping. And as she wept, she bent over into the tomb and saw two angels in white sitting there, one at the head and one at the feet where the body of Jesus had been. They said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said to them, "They have taken my Lord, and I do not know where they have put him." When she had said this, she returned and saw Jesus there. But she did not know it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? For whom are you looking?" She thought it was the gardener and said to him, "Sir, if you carried him away, tell me where you have put him. I will take him." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned and said to him in Hebrew, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said to her, "Stop holding on to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brothers and tell them, I am going to my Father and to your Father, to my God and to your God." Mary went and announced to his disciples, "I have seen the Lord." And then she reported what he had told her. One thing we must realize is in the aftermath of the resurrection, there was a lot of confusion. There were a lot of conflicting emotions between and among the people. Jesus' disciples, Mary Magdalene, they didn't really understand what to rise from the dead really and truly meant. Nobody saw Jesus rise, and so when they saw the empty tomb, they thought that something was up, that something fishy was up. And so Mary looks in and doesn't find the body of Jesus and is thinking initially that they have stolen his body. Someone has come and taken him away. And she's so distraught that when the risen Lord walks right up to her, she does not even recognize him. "Sir, if you are the one who has taken him, give him to me. Let me have him." Mary and Jesus had a very close personal relationship prior to all this. And in the midst of Mary's confusion and wondering and doubting, Jesus doesn't give her a long lecture. Jesus could have fallen into the trap of giving her a very, very lengthy sermon. He doesn't do that like Father Peter and I have a tendency to do. He doesn't give her a lengthy discourse. He only speaks one word. The most powerful one-word sermon ever recorded in all of human history. And I know what you're thinking. Why don't you give a one-word sermon every so often? Be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. And the one-word sermon that Jesus utters is simply this: Mary. Jesus calls her by name. Now, what is said can never be separated from how it is said. Jesus simply speaks Mary's name, but probably with a reverence and with a tenderness that is beyond compare. And simply by speaking her name, Mary is able to recognize with a clarity that it is the risen Lord who stands in her midst. Jesus calls us by name as well. Listen to the Lord calling you tenderly by name today. And pray for the grace to be able to recognize him more clearly in the breaking of the bread, in the drinking from the cup, in the midst of the ordinary, nitty-gritty circumstances of everyday life. We're living in very, very close quarters these days, and maybe it seems as if the presence of the Lord has been squeezed and bumped. It hasn't, and it never will be. He calls you by name, just as he calls Mary. As he reverences and respects your name, reverence and respect the Lord's name, your own name, and those of one another. Let's continue to pray for one another as we live the journey of Easter.